to record this
Yes.
interview?
Yes.
Did you provide that today?
Yes, sir.
Is this the thing that I provided today?
Yes, it is.
This is a copy of the interview that you
Yes,
took
sir.
with them?
Yes, sir.
Down my approach.
May.
It's Investigator Ryan Pugh, Jackson Police Department. Today is February the 14th. It is 4:30 p.m. I'm sitting in a room with Charlie Pittman. He's going to interview you about the death of Olivia Greenlee. Okay, Charlie, what I want you to do is just, I know you've been talking to me. Why don't you just tell me the story? Tell me just what happened.
Starting when?
Where does the story begin?
Probably. I mean, like when her feelings started coming up or what?
Well, you said she'd been depressed for how long had it been before since she failed the premises test?
Just a few weeks.
What did she ask you to get the gun for? Start there.
She asked me to get the gun maybe 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
It wasn't very long ago. I refused. I said I would not ever take part in her taking her own life. But the way she was just snapping in and out of happiness and depression made me really worried. So she kept telling me, either I'm going to get a gun or you're going to walk in here one morning coming to see me and I'm going to be dead on the floor with a slit in my throat. Or I'm going to come in here and I'm going to OD on whatever pills I can get. She said it's going to happen one way or the other. And so I tried reasoning with her, saying this is not you. It's not you thinking. I know you want to end your life, but that's not the answer. She would come over to my apartment, and I always turn my back to her walking into Josh's room and looking for a gun. Obviously she found the gun. I don't know when she found it, but I know she had it. The day she took her own life, she told me that that night she was planning on taking her own life. I didn't actually believe her. She told me I was going to find her with her throat cut in her room. So I tried to spend as much time that day as I could, trying to make her happy and feel good. We left and went to Quiznos, and we drove to Luther Hall. Before we got to Quiznos, I found the gun in her glove compartment. And so, when she wasn't looking, she had gotten in the car, I took the gun, I put it in my jacket pocket, and I was planning on throwing it away or leaving. And so we sat in Quiznos and we talked about special times that we've had and special places we've gone. And before then, she said, if I'm going to end my life, I want to do it somewhere where special things have happened between the two of us. She said, I want to know that I'm ending my life in a place that I felt joy. And so there was a couple times at Luther Hall, because it's away from everything, that we would go out there, we'd sit and we'd talk before we both had an apartment. And knees and I begged that she would give me one more shot and stay in this relationship and allow me to marry her and to go back to Dyersburg and talk to her parents. Rebecca walked in on one of our arguments. I don't know if she heard anything that night, actually. And we got to Luther Hall, and she reached for the glove compartment, and I said, I'm not giving you this gun. And she begged, and she said some of the nastiest things about herself. She said, I'm going to grab a pen for my
What did she say about herself?
things like, I'm a worthless piece of shit and I don't care about myself. Like, why wouldn't you allow me to go home to my father to be in peace? These things she said in her apartment, she said in her car. And so this is the part where I'm so embarrassed. I feel so awful. Because for some reason sitting there, I thought back to the times of when I was depressed and I thought about ending my life because I thought my family hated me. I thought my dad thought I was a good-for-nothing piece of junk, and I thought he didn't care about me anymore. I thought, my pastor kind of kicked me out, so I thought that my life was basically over. I remember the feeling of knowing that I was a Christian and knowing that if I took my own life, I'd be with God in heaven, experiencing a love like I'd never felt before. And for some reason in that moment, sitting down, the thought of Olivia taking a pin and stabbing herself, or taking a knife and cutting her own throat, I knew that there'd be so much pain involved with that. I told Olivia, I'm not taking part in this. So I took the gun out of my jacket and I put it on the floor. I said, I love you so much. I want so much more for you, and God loves you. He doesn't want you to harm yourself. But whatever you feel is right to do, you do. And I feel so terrible that that thought even crossed my mind. But I remember feeling that way on my own. Feeling that if I ended my life, I would be happy. And I loved Olivia so much, more than anybody. And I thought maybe if she does do this, she will finally feel the joy that comes with Christ, the joy that she would feel from God, wrapping her up in his arms, where I truly believe she is now. So I just left the gun on the floor, and I closed my eyes and began to pray. And I felt her hand go down below my leg. I began to pray harder and harder. I screamed at the top of my lungs that I heard the gunshot. All I can remember is my ears ringing from the gunshot. And I can remember her head kind of moving around. And so I grabbed her on the back with her jacket, and I pulled her close, and I kissed her. And I began to weep. So I got out of the car. And the only thing I could think of, just freaking out at the time, was saying, just get out of here. Make sure you call people to make it so that everybody knows that she committed suicide. And I knew that if I called the police and said, hey, I just witnessed my fiance commit suicide, I thought that you guys would be like, you were sitting in the car with her, did you kill her? And so I had a reaction. I got out, I shut the door. As I locked the door, I ran. And by 7 in the morning, I was like, they still haven't found her? And so I called safety and security and said, will you please do a quick scan of campus, because I knew they would find her up at Luther Hall. I knew they would call the police. I knew that you guys would call us. But I'm so sorry that I didn't call you guys earlier. I wish I would have called you in the car at that time. I wish I would have called you before, saying, hey, my fiance is suicidal, so I can take her away and put her somewhere where she's not going to do it. And in my dumb mind, imagined a place of peace in heaven where if she committed suicide that she would be at, and she would stop thinking of harming herself because she would no longer have to. So I felt like if I ran away from this, and I felt like if I left this part of the story out, Olivia would not be known as a psychotic person who was planning on killing herself. And she would go down as the person who just was in the wrong mind of thinking and ended her life. Not someone who was almost in a psychotic depression who wanted to end her life. I thought if this part of the story was out there, that people would think, Olivia went crazy and she ended her life. So I freaked out. I panicked. I didn't know what to do. I was in a world of hurt because I just sat next to my fiancée as she pulled the trigger. I just ran and waited. I tried to text her a bunch and call her a bunch just to show that I was looking for her, to try to make up some cover story that I wasn't actually there when she did it. Because if people knew I was there, they'd ask me all kinds of questions that I did not want to answer. Like, why did you throw the gun away? Why didn't you just leave, not let her have the gun? It's the whole...
Investigator accused at the end of the second story there.
It is.
Is that the end of the interview?
It is.